brain. For centuries, humans have been fascinated with the brain. They've admired true geniuses like Socrates, Tesla, Einstein, Da Vinci, Dr. Emmett Brown, pioneers of thought. Today, I dive in to determine the correlation between pea protein and the brain, to discover if plant-based protein is just a fad or the future. Explore with me, if you will, the link between pea protein and the brain on this week's episode of The Awesome Factor. Hey there, everybody. My name is Ben Sparrow, and welcome to The Awesome Factor. This week, we're going to be talking about the correlation between the brain and pea protein. Pea protein is certainly a buzzword in today's health-conscious society. But this week, I learned that there's an unknown benefit of pea protein on brain health. A Harvard study published in the January 2022 issue of the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition suggests that getting enough protein in your diet may be important for protecting your cognition. In this study, eating protein was associated with lower odds of developing cognitive decline later in life. The study, entitled Long-Term Dietary Protein Intake and Subjective Cognitive Decline in U.S. Men and Women, lays out its objective clearly. In this study, we aim to investigate the association between long-term dietary protein intake and subsequent subjective cognitive decline, or SCD. This study, and I'll leave a link to it below, concludes that higher protein intake was associated with lower odds of SCD when compared isocalorically with carbohydrates. Plant protein sources were also associated with lower odds when compared with animal protein sources. The findings suggest that adequate protein intake and the choices of protein sources could play a role in the maintenance of cognition and should be studied further. So, what does that mean? Well, we're going to break it down for you step by step on how they came to this determination and ultimately what this means for you. First, let's talk about what protein is. Proteins and amino acids are important nutrients for normal functioning of the human body and are the building blocks for muscles and organs. They are essential for tissue cell repair and production of neurotransmitters. Neuro meaning related to the nerves or nervous system. In an article entitled Pea Protein Benefits and How to Make the Most of Them, Dr. Michael Rusko says, proteins are made up of 20 different amino acids, 8 of which are essential. This means we need to get them from food, as the body cannot manufacture them themselves. Amino acids combine in many different ways to make different complex proteins. For example, proteins make up antibodies and other cells of the immune system, hormones, and the enzymes that facilitate biological reactions. They also form the structures of the skin, muscles, and organs like the heart and brain. The good quantity of essential amino acids in pea protein help make it a superior plant protein. In pea protein, 30% of the amino acids are essential amino acids, compared to the 27% in soy protein and 28% in brown rice protein. Essentially, what that means is that when you eat pea protein, you get more essential amino acids than other kinds of plant protein. And with more essential amino acids combining to create more complex proteins, pea protein seems to be a better bang for your buck. Think about it this way. When you drive a car, you can put in different types of gasoline. Every gasoline gets your car going, but some gasolines last longer. They have less ethanol. They're more efficient. By putting that plant-based protein gasoline, I say that in air quotes, you don't actually put gasoline in your body, but by putting that theoretical gasoline in your body, you can go farther. You can build more complex proteins, which leads to less cognitive decline. So I guess it makes sense why our mothers always told us to eat our vegetables. It makes us smarter, because they quite literally do, especially peas and pea protein. So every time you eat something with pea protein, look at the person across from you or next to you and say, I am smarter than you because I am eating peas. They will look very confused, and then you can show them this episode of The Awesome Factor and say, hey, peas make you smart. But I digress. Let's now transition from talking about amino acids to more about the brain and protein. What do protein and brain have in common? Well, protein makes up the brain. I already mentioned that. And do you remember when I was talking about neurotransmitters? Well, neurotransmitters are chemical messengers that your body can't function without. They're essentially telephone lines in a way. They go all throughout your body and send signals from the brain to a certain part of the body. So if you want to move your arm, you have a neurotransmitted signal coming from your brain to your arm saying, hey, let's move this. So if protein makes up neurotransmitters, the more protein, the more neurotransmitters, the more effective these signals are from the brain to different portions of your body. It ties hand in hand with cognitive function. So adequate protein intake may be important for maintaining cognitive function, with plant-based protein being generally a superior source. Okay, so we've talked about protein. We've talked a little bit about neurotransmitters in the brain, how those two kind of fit in together. But are there any other benefits of having pea protein as opposed to animal protein? Well, I'm so glad you asked, because there is one more that I wanted to talk about today. Plant-based protein foods, and more specifically pea protein foods, have the lowest amount of advanced glycation end products, also called AGEs, and a low AGE diet was found to be associated with significantly lower brain amyloid protein accumulation. Now, there's another word, amyloid. What does amyloid mean? Well, it's a wavy, translucent substance composed primarily of protein fibers that is deposited in various organs of animals and certain diseases. That's according to dictionary.com. So there's a connection between amyloid production and plant-based protein. Eating more plant protein means less amyloids, and less amyloids means less of that waxy, translucent substance that can get on your brain and cause disease. Okay, so you're probably thinking, well, I must have some amyloids on my brain because this is a lot of heavy-duty stuff. So let's simplify things. According to this study, they say adequate protein intake may be important for maintaining cognitive function, with plant-based protein being a generally superior source. You know, I read this study and I thought it was super interesting. I wanted to share it all with you this week on The Awesome Factor. A lot of times reading sophisticated studies like this can be over our heads, but to hear that protein is associated with lower odds of developing cognitive decline, I thought that was super interesting. Add on to that pea protein and plant protein in particular are more effective when gleaning amino acids that can make these complex proteins to help brain function. And I knew I had to share it with you all today. Maybe this helps you all understand why pea protein and plant-based protein are such buzzwords in today's health-conscious culture. There are certainly a lot of benefits, just a few of which I've mentioned today. And that's one of the cool things when we think about food not as something necessarily to just nourish us, but as something that's almost like a nutraceutical, something that provides a health benefit. We can alter our diet to not just be nourished, but to enable some bodily functions to work more efficiently. And this is where our partner, Awesome Granola, comes into play. As we've mentioned before, the Awesome Factor is created in collaboration with McYoung Foods, the makers of Awesome Granola. And one of the things McYoung Foods Awesome Granola is known for is that it is made with pea protein. It's also low in sugar and allergen-free, so your whole family can enjoy it too. Go ahead and head on over to Walmart.com or Amazon.com and pick up some allergen-free Awesome Granola today. Well, that's going to do it for the Awesome Factor for this week. Thanks so much for tuning in. We hope you learned something. If you like this video, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button to stay up to date on all things Awesome Factor. The Awesome Factor is recorded in collaboration with McYoung Foods, makers of Awesome Granola. Awesome Granola, fuel your freedom. For more information, head on over to www.awesomegranola.com. Make sure to follow them on Facebook at Awesome Granola and on Instagram at Awesome Granola GF. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time on The Awesome Factor. Bye-bye.